The first stage is the mental stage. This is where your brain seeks connections with previous activities you've learned. It looks for familiar movement patterns and begins to build new neural connections. The characteristics to look for in the mental stage is to first demonstrate the activity and explain. The second task is while practicing to develop a good plan of what you exactly need to do. While coaching in the mental stage, you must be careful not to overload your athletes with too much information due to your own impatience. All athletes learn at different rates. These are all things to keep in mind while going through the mental stage. The next stage is the practice stage. There will be a lot more time spent on this stage to help refine the techniques and practice them. Characteristics of the practice stage include shifting emphasis on learning the sequence of movements to refining the timing and coordination of each phase, learning how to make their performance become more consistent, learning from sensory feedback information, and listening to feedback. Although it is important to not give negative feedback for noticeable errors that your athletes make because they can detect these errors themselves. It is important to give positive feedback, which gives your athletes more confidence and allows for them to make adjustments to improve even more. Some important notes for coaching in the practice stage are: it is not the quantity of practice, but also the quality that will improve the player's rate of learning. It is important that coaches make good judgments about the following: how often you should practice, how long each practice should be, practicing parts or as a whole, and knowing when to advance to more advanced techniques. Lastly, it is important to note that practice should be more at a game-like pace because only then will your team experience the conditions that will help you develop the abstract rules needed to perform in the actual game. And only then will you as a coach understand your players' capacity to learn, motivation, and level of fatigue. The final stage is the automatic stage. In this stage, the more you practice, the more normal it becomes, and then eventually it will require less mental capacity. Characteristics of this stage include you now being able to easily correct errors. You become so familiar with techniques that you tend to overanalyze them and make even more mistakes. But as a coach, it is important to tell your athletes not to think so much and just let it play out. Even as the tasks have been learned, it is important to keep practicing to keep them automatic. Coaching in the automatic stage, you need to ensure that you take more responsibility on technical skill development and performance. While performing, there are many other factors that can get in the way of performance, such as tactical, physical, mental, and communication skills. All aspects are important for the game, and in order to be a good coach, one must help their athletes with each of these sport skills.
Step 1. Introduce skill. Get the team's attention. Arrange them in a formation so that you can make eye contact with everyone. If they are inattentive, move closer to them and politely address them by name and ask them to pay attention. Arrange the team so everyone can see and hear you. Make sure the background is free of visual distractions and that they are not facing the sun. Try selecting a practice area with minimum noise. Naming the technique and explaining how it is used in the game. Use common names, and if there isn't one, make a short descriptive title that everyone can remember.
Alright, team, do you know what a free throw is?
I think so.
What is it?
When the other team fouls on us, we get the chance to make a free throw after that.
That's true, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you guys using the beep method today.
Step 2. Demonstrate and explain technical skill. Have someone who is proficient in the task and whom the team respects to demonstrate the skill. Relate the technique to one previously learned. Check for understanding. Keep it short and concise.
Alright, so so we're going to use the beef method today. So I'm going to need you guys to balance. That's the beef. You want to make sure your elbow is straight, your eyes are directly towards the rim, and you want to follow through after you shoot. We're going to have Lauren go ahead and... All right, great form, Lauren.
Step 3. Have athletes practice the technical skill. Whole versus part. When the skill is low in complexity and high in interdependence, practice the whole skill completely. When the skill is high in complexity and low in interdependence, break the skill down into different parts and practice them separately.
Now you ladies can go ahead and practice the free throws.
Okay, coach.
Almost. Very good, Lauren. You just have to remember that follow through.
Step 4. Correct errors. Know how to change and correct performance to more closely approximate the desired performance. Observe and evaluate performance. Don't rush into error correction. Wrong feedback or poor advice will hurt the learning process more than no feedback or advice. Observe the error several times before trying to correct it. Retain a positive approach to correcting error. Control your frustrations and continue to search for a way to help your athletes. A mistake undetected is a mistake uncorrected.
No, Sierra. That's you. Your form is all wrong. We're going to do it right this time, okay?
Okay, coach.
All right. Feet behind the line. I need some balance. Elbow straight. Eyes looking at the rim.